What if I told you that the person you've been waiting for to change your life has been staring back at you in the mirror every single day? The truth is, no one is coming to save you. The moment you realize that, your life begins to change forever. Taking full ownership of your life is the first step toward creating the future you desire, and yet it is the step that most people resist. It is so much easier to point fingers, to make excuses, to say that life dealt you a bad hand, that the system is unfair, or that someone else is holding you back. But here's the reality. As long as you keep shifting responsibility outside of yourself, you also shift away your power. Every excuse you make is another brick you add to the wall that separates you from your destiny. True ownership begins when you stop saying, "It's not my fault," and you start asking, "What can I do to change this situation?" The difference between those who succeed and those who remain stuck is not talent, not luck, not even opportunity. It is their ability to take responsibility for everything in their lives, even the things that feel unfair. Because the moment you take responsibility, you put yourself in a position of power, and from that position, change becomes possible. When you choose ownership, you step into a mindset that refuses to accept victimhood. You refuse to believe that life just happens to you, and instead, you recognize that life responds to you. Every decision you've made, every action you've taken, every choice you've embraced has led you exactly where you are right now. If your life is filled with results you don't like, that is not a reason to give up. It is a reason to dig deeper and make new choices. Ownership is not about guilt, shame, or self-punishment. Ownership is about empowerment. It says, if I created this reality through my past decisions, then I can create a different one through my future decisions. That is the kind of mindset that builds leaders, entrepreneurs, visionaries, and world changers. They do not wait for perfect conditions. They create conditions through ownership. Think about it. The most successful people you admire are not those who blame others for their failures, but those who accept every result as their own and learn from it. When they fail, they don't say, "This is because of my parents, my boss, or my environment." They say, "This is because of a choice I made, and I can make a different choice tomorrow." Ownership takes the power away from excuses and puts it back into your hands. It is not the easy path because excuses are comfortable. Excuses give you permission to stay the same. But ownership is where transformation begins. The truth is, if you are always pointing outward, you will never have the energy to look inward and see the areas of your life that need change. Ownership also forces you to stop negotiating with mediocrity. When you don't take ownership, it is easy to settle, to accept a life far smaller than what you are capable of. You say things like, "I would have done better if only my circumstances were different," or "I could have succeeded if I had the resources." But ownership destroys that mindset and demands that you stop waiting for conditions to be perfect. It demands that you use what you have, where you are, right now, and build something meaningful out of it. Ownership makes you resourceful. Instead of saying, "I don't have the tools," you say, "I'll learn how to create the tools." Instead of saying, "I don't know the way," you say, "I will figure out the way." That is how greatness is built, not by avoiding responsibility, but by embracing it so fully that excuses lose their grip on you. Taking full ownership of your life also changes the way you see obstacles. Without ownership, obstacles feel like unfair punishments. You think, "Why is this happening to me?" But with ownership, obstacles become opportunities. You realize that every challenge is shaping you, preparing you, and sharpening your skills for the next level. When you say, "This obstacle is mine and I will find a way to overcome it," you grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. That strength doesn't come from outside. It comes from the willingness to own both the problem and the solution. Ownership is what transforms a victim into a victor, because it shifts your perspective from helplessness to empowerment. It's important to understand that ownership is not about controlling every external factor, because there will always be things outside of your control. You cannot control the weather, the economy, or other people's decisions. But ownership means you control how you respond. You control your attitude, your mindset, your work ethic, your focus, and your determination. The difference between those who rise and those who fall is not the storm they face. It is how they decide to sail through it. Ownership gives you the authority to say, I may not control the storm, but I control my ship, and I will not sink. Taking ownership also means facing your fears head on. It is easy to hide behind excuses and say, I can't start because I'm not ready, or I can't try because I might fail. But ownership strips away those lies. Ownership says, if I fail, I will learn. If I succeed, I will grow. Either way, the outcome belongs to me, and I will not run from it. When you embrace that truth, you stop living life passively and start living life intentionally. You stop waiting for opportunities to fall into your lap and start creating opportunities with your own hands. Ownership takes you from being reactive to being proactive, and that shift alone can change everything about your journey. And finally, ownership demands accountability, not just to others, but to yourself. When you take ownership, you stop lying to yourself about why you didn't wake up early, why you skipped the work, why you didn't push harder. You start holding yourself accountable because you understand that your life is the sum of your decisions, and no one else will carry the consequences for you. Accountability may sting at first, but it creates freedom. It gives you the freedom to say, I am not trapped by my past choices because I have the power to make new ones. And the more accountable you are, the more powerful you become, because you stop waiting for someone else to change your story and realize that the pen has been in your hands all along. Confidence is not something you borrow from the approval of others, and it is not something that appears only when life is easy. True confidence is an inside job. It is a deep, unshakable belief in who you are and what you are capable of, regardless of the circumstances or the opinions of the world around you. Too many people spend their entire lives chasing validation, waiting for someone to pat them on the back, to say they are good enough, smart enough, talented enough, or worthy enough. But the moment you give others the power to validate you, you also give them the power to crush you. If your confidence rises and falls based on how people treat you, then you will always live in a prison built by their opinions. Real confidence comes when you decide, without needing outside confirmation, that you are enough, that you are worthy, and that you are capable of creating the life you envision. Think about how often people hold themselves back because they are afraid of what others might think. They don't start the business because someone might laugh. They don't share their ideas because someone might criticize. They don't pursue their passion because someone might doubt them. That fear is evidence that they are still dependent on external validation. But the truth is, the world will always have something to say. No matter what you do, there will be voices of doubt, voices of jealousy, voices of criticism. If you are waiting for unanimous approval before you step into your greatness, you will wait forever. The only voice that truly matters is the one inside you, because that is the voice that determines whether you take action or stay silent. Confidence from within is about strengthening that inner voice until it is louder than the noise of the crowd. Building inner confidence requires a shift in focus from outcomes to identity. Too many people base their confidence on results. If they succeed, they feel confident. If they fail, their confidence disappears. That kind of confidence is fragile because results are temporary and unpredictable. True confidence is not about what you accomplish. It is about who you are becoming. When you build your identity around resilience, discipline, growth, and persistence, you stop fearing failure because your confidence is not tied to winning every time. You know that even if you fall, you will rise again, and that certainty is what fuels unshakable confidence. It is not arrogance. It is self-assurance that comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you will keep moving forward. Confidence also grows when you learn to keep promises to yourself. Every time you say you will do something and you actually follow through, you strengthen your trust in yourself. But every time you break those promises, you weaken that trust. Imagine a friend who constantly promises to show up but never does. You would eventually stop relying on them. The same thing happens inside you. If you don't keep your word to yourself, you stop trusting yourself, and that destroys confidence. On the other hand, when you practice discipline, when you commit to goals and stay consistent, you begin to believe in your own word. That belief becomes confidence, and that confidence becomes the foundation for everything you pursue. Another important truth about confidence is that it is not built in the spotlight, but in the shadows. People often assume that confidence comes when you step on the stage, when you launch the project, when you stand in front of the audience. But the reality is, confidence is built long before that moment. It is built in the late nights when you study, in the early mornings when you train, in the countless hours of preparation that no one sees. Confidence is the result of preparation. When you know you have done the work, when you know you have put in the effort, when you know you are ready, confidence flows naturally. If you want to feel more confident, don't wait for someone to hand it to you. Prepare, practice, and improve until you cannot be denied. It is also important to separate confidence from perfection. Many people believe they can only be confident once they have everything figured out, once they have mastered every skill, once they are flawless. That is a trap. Confidence is not about being perfect. It is about embracing imperfection. It is about stepping forward even when you don't have all the answers, trusting that you will figure it out along the way. The people who appear the most confident are not those who never make mistakes. They are those who keep moving despite mistakes. They do not let fear of imperfection stop them from showing up. When you embrace imperfection and still take action, your confidence grows because you prove to yourself that you don't need perfect conditions to succeed. Confidence from within also requires self-awareness. You cannot truly believe in yourself if you don't know yourself. Many people struggle with confidence because they are constantly comparing themselves to others, trying to live up to someone else's standard, trying to fit into someone else's definition of success. But confidence comes when you stop competing with others and start aligning with your true self. When you know your strengths, when you accept your weaknesses, when you understand your values and your vision, you no longer need to prove anything to anyone. You live authentically, and that authenticity creates a natural confidence that no one can shake. And finally, inner confidence is rooted in courage. Confidence does not mean the absence of fear. It means moving forward despite fear. Every time you do something that scares you, you expand your limits, and every time you expand your limits, your confidence grows. The more you face discomfort, the more you realize that fear is just an illusion, and the more you realize that, the less power fear has over you. Confidence is built in the moments you dare to step outside your comfort zone, in the moments you choose courage over convenience, in the moments you decide that your dreams are worth the risk. It is in those moments that you teach yourself you are capable of far more than you once believed, and that lesson becomes the foundation of unstoppable confidence. Self-discipline is the invisible bridge that carries you from where you are to where you want to be. It is not glamorous, it is not always exciting, and it does not always feel rewarding in the moment, but it is the single most powerful trait that separates those who dream from those who achieve. Without discipline, goals remain fantasies, visions remain daydreams, and potential remains untapped. People love to talk about motivation, but motivation is temporary. It rises and falls with emotions, with circumstances, with the weather of your life. Discipline, however, is steady. Discipline shows up whether you feel like it or not. Discipline does not care about your mood. It cares about your commitment. It is the foundation upon which greatness is built, because everything valuable in life requires consistent effort over time. When you look at the people who have accomplished extraordinary things, you may be tempted to believe they were driven by constant bursts of inspiration. But the truth is far simpler and far less glamorous. They built habits, and those habits were fueled by discipline. They woke up early when they wanted to sleep in. They trained when their bodies ached. They studied when their minds felt tired. They worked on their craft even when no one was watching. They did the hard, unexciting, repetitive things that no one applauded because they understood that discipline compounds. Every small action taken with discipline builds upon the last until eventually the results are undeniable. That is why discipline is the master key. It unlocks the doors that talent alone cannot open. Talent can give you a head start, but without discipline, talent fades. Dreams can give you vision, but without discipline, dreams remain distant. Even opportunity, as powerful as it is, can be wasted without discipline to seize it and maximize it. Self-discipline is the glue that holds everything together. It is what keeps you moving when excitement has disappeared. It is what forces you to push past distractions and focus on what matters. It is what ensures that your actions align with your goals rather than your impulses. Without discipline, you will always start strong but finish weak. With discipline, you may start slow, but you will finish strong, because consistency always beats intensity in the long run. Discipline is not something that comes naturally. It is something you cultivate. It begins with small decisions. Do you choose to wake up with your alarm, or do you hit snooze? Do you choose to work on your goals after a long day, or do you waste the night scrolling endlessly? Do you choose to save money for your future, or do you spend it all on temporary pleasures? These choices may seem small, but they are not. They are shaping your destiny. Every act of discipline is a vote for the person you want to become. Every act of laziness is a vote for the person you are settling to be. Discipline is not about perfection, but about consistency, and every day you cast votes. Over time, those votes build your character, your habits, and your results. Another truth about discipline is that it demands sacrifice. To gain something of value, you must be willing to give something up. You cannot eat junk food every day and expect health. You cannot waste hours on distractions and expect progress. You cannot stay in your comfort zone and expect growth. Discipline forces you to say no to the easy choices so you can say yes to the right ones. It is about trading short-term comfort for long-term fulfillment. The undisciplined person seeks instant gratification, but the disciplined person understands that true rewards come later. This is why disciplined people often look strange to others. They say no when everyone else says yes. They work when everyone else is relaxing. They focus when everyone else is distracted. But when the harvest season comes, they are the ones who reap the rewards. Self-discipline also builds trust within yourself. When you tell yourself you will do something and you actually follow through, you reinforce the belief that you can rely on yourself. Over time, this creates confidence. You know you will do the work even when it is hard because you have proven it to yourself repeatedly. Without discipline, you break that trust. You say you will exercise, but you don't. You say you will save, but you spend. You say you will study, but you procrastinate. Each broken promise weakens your trust in yourself, and without self-trust, confidence crumbles. But with discipline, every promise kept makes you stronger. It tells your subconscious, I can count on me, and that belief becomes unshakable. Discipline is also the cure for procrastination. People procrastinate not because they are lazy, but because they are controlled by emotion. They wait until they feel like working, until they feel inspired, until the time is right. But the truth is, you will rarely feel like doing the hard thing. Waiting for the right feeling is waiting for something that may never come. Discipline frees you from the prison of emotion. It says, I will act whether I feel like it or not. Once you take action, feelings often follow, but disciplined people do not wait for feelings. They create momentum through action. This is why disciplined people often seem unstoppable. They are not driven by mood, but by mission. It is also important to understand that discipline is not punishment, though many treat it that way. Discipline is a form of self-love. It is saying, I care enough about my future to make the right choices today. It is choosing to protect your vision, your health, your finances, your relationships, your mind, by acting in ways that serve you, even if those actions require discomfort. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom. It is the gateway to it. Without discipline, you are a slave to your impulses, your distractions, and your emotions. With discipline, you gain control over your time, your habits, and your destiny. The undisciplined person feels free in the moment, but pays later with regret. The disciplined person feels the pain of sacrifice now, but enjoys the freedom of success later. Finally, discipline is what keeps your vision alive when everything else fails. Motivation fades, opportunities disappear, emotions shift, but discipline remains. Discipline says, even if no one claps, I will keep going. Even if I am tired, I will keep moving. Even if I fail today, I will try again tomorrow. That persistence, born from discipline, is what turns ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. It is not always about doing more. Sometimes it is about doing less, but doing it consistently, with focus and commitment. Discipline is not the path everyone chooses, but it is the path that leads to mastery, fulfillment, and lasting success. Pain is one of life's most unavoidable experiences, and yet it is also one of life's greatest teachers. Everyone goes through pain, pain of failure, pain of rejection, pain of loss, pain of disappointment, pain of struggle. But what separates the strong from the weak is not the presence of pain, but the way they respond to it. Pain can break you, or it can build you. It can paralyze you, or it can push you forward. The choice is not in avoiding pain, because avoidance is impossible. The choice is in whether you let pain define you or refine you. The people who rise to greatness are not those who lived pain-free lives. They are those who learned how to transform their pain into power. They understood that inside every hardship lies an opportunity, and they refused to waste the lessons hidden inside their suffering. When you experience pain, your first instinct may be to resist it, to wish it away, or to run from it. But running from pain only prolongs it. Pain demands to be felt, but more importantly, pain demands to be used. Every struggle you endure is carrying a message, a lesson, a strength you did not know you had. When you stop asking, why me, and start asking, what is this teaching me, you begin to see pain as a tool instead of a tormentor. That shift in perspective is powerful because it gives you control. Instead of being crushed under the weight of your hardships, you start to rise on top of them. You realize that the very thing that tried to break you is actually shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more resilient than you ever imagined. Pain has a way of stripping away illusions and forcing you to confront the truth. When everything is easy, you can afford to hide behind comfort and distraction, but pain takes away the masks. It reveals your deepest fears, your hidden weaknesses, and your true character. That revelation may hurt, but it is also a gift, because you cannot grow beyond what you are unwilling to face. Pain exposes the areas of your life that need healing, discipline, or transformation. It shows you what really matters and what does not. And when you use that clarity to make better choices, you come out of pain sharper and stronger. Pain becomes a sculptor, chiseling away the unnecessary until what remains is the best version of yourself. Many people believe that pain disqualifies them from success, but the opposite is true. Pain prepares you for success. If you never experienced hardship, you would not have the resilience to handle the weight of your dreams. Success is not just about reaching the top. It is about staying there, and that requires strength. Pain trains you for that strength. Every rejection you face teaches you perseverance. Every failure you endure teaches you adaptability. Every setback you survive teaches you patience. Without pain, you would not have the emotional or mental muscles needed to carry the blessings you are praying for. The very struggle you are cursing today may be the exact preparation you need for the opportunities of tomorrow. Turning pain into power also requires you to stop viewing yourself as a victim and start viewing yourself as a victor. Victims dwell on what happened to them. Victors focus on what they can do with what happened. You cannot control the fact that you were hurt, betrayed, or disappointed, but you can control how you respond. You can choose to let pain make you bitter, or you can choose to let it make you better. The difference lies in responsibility. When you take responsibility for your healing and your response, you reclaim your power. No longer is pain something that dictates your story. Instead, it becomes the ink with which you write a new chapter. Think about some of the greatest leaders, inventors, or creators in history. Many of them were born out of struggle. They endured losses, defeats, humiliations, and hardships that most people would have used as excuses to quit. Instead, they used those experiences as fuel. They channeled their frustration, their grief, and their anger into action. They turned personal suffering into contributions that impacted the world. The truth is, some of the greatest innovations, businesses, movements, and masterpieces were birthed not from comfort, but from pain. Pain awakens creativity, resourcefulness, and determination like nothing else can. There is also a hidden power in pain because it connects you to others. Pain creates empathy, compassion, and understanding. When you have suffered, you are better equipped to help others who are suffering. When you have struggled, you gain the ability to lead others out of struggle. Your scars become your testimony, and your testimony becomes someone else's hope. What once made you cry can one day make you a voice of encouragement. What once felt like punishment can later serve as your platform. Pain gives you credibility because people trust those who have walked through fire and come out alive. In this way, pain does not just empower you, it empowers everyone you touch. To turn pain into power, you must also learn to shift your energy. Pain creates intense emotions, anger, sadness, frustration, but those emotions are raw fuel. Left unmanaged, they can burn you out, but if channeled correctly, they can propel you forward. Athletes often use the pain of defeat to train harder. Entrepreneurs often use the pain of failure to innovate smarter. Leaders often use the pain of rejection to become more determined. The energy of pain is powerful, and when you direct it toward constructive action, it becomes unstoppable momentum. What once seemed like an obstacle becomes the very fuel that drives you to heights you never thought possible. Ultimately, pain is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of transformation. Every challenge you face, every hardship you endure, every heartbreak you survive has within it the seeds of strength, wisdom, and growth. You cannot always choose your pain, but you can always choose what you do with it. When you choose to let pain elevate you instead of eliminate you, you step into a new level of power, a new depth of resilience, and a new sense of purpose. Pain is not the signal to stop, it is the signal to rise. Inner strength is not something that appears in a single moment of crisis. It is something that is developed slowly, consistently, and intentionally through the daily habits you choose. People often look at individuals who seem unshakable in the face of adversity and assume that they were simply born strong. But the truth is, strength is not inherited, it is cultivated. It is the result of countless small decisions, repeated over time until resilience becomes second nature. Habits are the building blocks of your character, and your character is what determines how you respond when life challenges you. If you want to become a person who can withstand storms, overcome obstacles, and rise above setbacks, you must focus not just on what you do occasionally, but on what you do daily. Your daily habits shape the lens through which you see the world. If your habits are rooted in negativity, procrastination, and inconsistency, your outlook will be fragile. But if your habits are grounded in discipline, growth, and self-care, your outlook will be resilient. Consider the habit of gratitude, for example. Taking a few minutes each day to reflect on what you are thankful for shifts your mind away from scarcity and toward abundance. This daily practice strengthens your ability to stay positive even in hard times, because your mind has been trained to look for the good. In the same way, habits of reading, learning, and reflection expand your mental strength, giving you tools to interpret challenges in constructive ways rather than destructive ones. Physical habits also play a massive role in building inner strength. Exercise, proper rest, and mindful eating may seem like surface-level activities, but they directly affect your energy, focus, and resilience. A strong body fuels a strong mind, and when you commit to habits that take care of your health, you are equipping yourself with the endurance to handle stress and pressure. Many people underestimate how much physical well-being impacts mental toughness. Skipping workouts, neglecting sleep, or fueling your body with junk may not seem to matter in the moment, but over time, those habits weaken your foundation. On the other hand, consistent physical care builds stamina, clarity, and confidence, all of which reinforce your inner strength. Discipline in small things creates the capacity for discipline in big things. Waking up on time, keeping your environment clean, finishing tasks you promised yourself you would complete. These habits may appear insignificant, but they carry enormous weight. Each act of follow-through builds trust in yourself, and that trust is the essence of inner strength. You begin to believe that you can rely on yourself no matter what comes. And when you believe in yourself, external challenges lose much of their power. It is not the size of the habit that matters, but the consistency of it. Over time, these small disciplines compound, shaping you into someone who does not crumble under pressure because you have already built a solid foundation through daily self-control. Habits also train your focus. In today's world, distractions are everywhere. Notifications, entertainment, endless scrolling, and without deliberate habits, your attention will constantly be scattered. But when you intentionally cultivate habits of focus, such as setting aside time for deep work, journaling, or meditation, you are training your mind to resist distraction and stay centered. Inner strength is not just about physical endurance or emotional resilience. It is also about mental clarity. A scattered mind is easily shaken, but a focused mind is unbreakable. Daily practices that quiet the noise and sharpen your attention build a level of mental toughness that makes you far less vulnerable to external chaos. It's also important to recognize that habits are not only about what you start doing, but also about what you stop doing. Letting go of destructive patterns is just as vital as building constructive ones. If you consistently indulge in negativity, toxic relationships, or harmful behaviors, those habits drain your inner strength. Breaking these cycles requires courage, but every time you choose to replace a destructive habit with a productive one, you reclaim more of your power. For example, replacing hours of aimless scrolling with 30 minutes of intentional learning builds both knowledge and self-discipline. Replacing gossip with gratitude strengthens relationships and builds a healthier mindset. These shifts may seem small, but over time they redefine who you are becoming. Habits also provide stability in uncertain times. Life will always be unpredictable. Circumstances change, people disappoint, plans fall apart. But when you have consistent habits, you have anchors that keep you steady. Morning routines, evening reflections, daily practices of faith, or simple rituals of focus. These create structure even when the world around you feels chaotic. They remind you that while you cannot control everything, you can control something, and that sense of control reinforces your strength. Inner strength grows when you focus not on what you cannot change, but on the small, intentional actions you can take every day. Another overlooked aspect of daily habits is that they create momentum. Inner strength is not built overnight. It grows as you string together days, weeks, and months of consistent effort. Each day you keep a positive habit, you prove to yourself that you are capable of change. That proof creates belief, and belief fuels even greater strength. Momentum is powerful because it makes discipline easier over time. What feels difficult at first becomes automatic later. And once your positive habits become automatic, they stop draining your willpower and start fueling your strength. You no longer have to think about whether you will show up. You simply show up, and that reliability becomes your superpower. Ultimately, building inner strength through daily habits is about designing a life that supports who you want to become. Strength is not built in occasional grand gestures, but in consistent, often unnoticed acts of commitment. Every book you read, every workout you complete, every reflection you write, every healthy choice you make, these are bricks being laid in the foundation of your resilience. And the beauty of this process is that it compounds. What begins as small, intentional habits grows into unshakable inner strength, the kind that allows you to withstand storms, overcome setbacks, and rise stronger every time life tests you. We live in a world filled with noise, constant chatter, endless opinions, breaking news, social media notifications, gossip, criticism, and distractions that pull us in every direction. It is nearly impossible to find silence in the external world. But if you want to grow into the person you are meant to be, you must learn to silence the noise around you. This is not about ignoring people or living in isolation. It is about taking control of what you allow into your mind and heart. Because the truth is simple. Whatever you feed your mind will shape your thoughts, and whatever shapes your thoughts will eventually shape your life. If you do not silence the noise will silence your vision. It will drown out your clarity, confuse your purpose, and weaken your resolve. Noise is not always loud in volume, but it is loud in influence. Sometimes the noise comes in the form of people telling you what you cannot do, planting seeds of doubt in your mind. Sometimes it is the culture telling you who you should be, what you should buy, how you should live, and what success should look like. Sometimes it is your own internal dialogue, repeating the doubts and fears you've absorbed from the world around you. If you do not actively filter the voices in your life, you will be led not by your vision, but by someone else's expectations. And when you live according to someone else's script, you lose yourself in the process. Silencing the noise is about reclaiming ownership of your inner world so you can clearly hear your own voice again. Silencing the noise requires discernment. Not all voices are negative, but not all voices are helpful either. Some people around you may genuinely care for you, but their advice is rooted in fear, not faith. They may discourage you from pursuing big goals because they themselves are afraid to fail. They may warn you against risks because they never learned to step outside their comfort zones. If you allow their fears to become your reality, you will shrink your life to fit their limitations. Discernment allows you to hear advice but not be enslaved by it, to listen without absorbing, to respect other perspectives without abandoning your own vision. This is a skill that must be practiced daily because the world will never stop offering its opinions. One of the biggest sources of noise today is digital overload. Our phones, computers, and televisions are constantly flooding us with information, most of which is irrelevant or toxic to our growth. Every scroll fills our minds with comparisons, distractions, and illusions of perfection that leave us feeling behind, inadequate, or overwhelmed. When you live in that environment without boundaries, your vision becomes blurred. You begin to measure your life by someone else's highlight reel instead of your own progress. You start chasing trends instead of pursuing purpose. Silencing the noise means creating space in your life where you are not consumed by constant digital input. It might mean taking breaks from social media, limiting your screen time, or being intentional about what kind of content you consume. Protecting your mental space is one of the greatest acts of discipline you can practice. Noise also comes in the form of negativity, and negativity is contagious. Spend too much time around people who complain, criticize, and gossip, and eventually you will find yourself doing the same. Surround yourself with people who constantly doubt, and soon your dreams will feel impossible. Negativity is like a virus. It spreads quickly and quietly until it takes over your mindset. To silence this kind of noise, you must set boundaries. That does not mean you have to cut off everyone in your life, but it does mean you must carefully manage the time and energy you give to toxic environments. Choose to spend more time with people who uplift, encourage, and challenge you to grow. The energy around you matters, and the stronger your environment, the stronger your mind will be. Silencing the noise also means learning how to quiet your own inner critic. Sometimes the loudest noise is not from the outside, but from within. It is the voice that tells you that you are not enough, that you are not capable, that you will fail if you try. This voice often echoes past failures, rejections, or criticisms, and if left unchecked, it becomes the soundtrack of your life. But you have the power to change that soundtrack. You can choose to replace those thoughts with empowering beliefs, to speak affirmations over yourself, to remind yourself of your past victories instead of only focusing on your struggles. Training your inner voice to become an ally instead of an enemy is one of the most powerful ways to silence the noise. Creating intentional silence is another practice that builds inner strength. In a noisy world, silence becomes a form of rebellion. Taking time each day to disconnect, to sit in stillness, to reflect, meditate, or pray allows your mind to reset. It clears the mental clutter and creates space for creativity, clarity, and vision. Many people fear silence because they are so used to being distracted that they cannot sit with their own thoughts. But silence is not empty. It is full of answers, ideas, and insights that you cannot hear when you are constantly surrounded by noise. By creating daily moments of silence, you give yourself the chance to reconnect with your deeper purpose and hear the guidance that is often drowned out by chaos. When you silence the noise around you, you amplify your focus. Focus is the key to achievement, but focus cannot exist in a noisy mind. A scattered mind is pulled in 100 directions, never making progress in any. A focused mind, however, channels all its energy toward what truly matters, and that is where breakthroughs happen. Imagine sunlight scattered across a room. It brings light, but little heat. But when that light is concentrated through a magnifying glass, it can set something on fire. Your mind works the same way. Silencing the noise allows you to concentrate your mental energy, and that concentration ignites power, passion, and results. At its core, silencing the noise is about protecting your vision. You were not created to be average, to conform, or to be controlled by the distractions of the world. You were created with unique gifts, unique potential, and a unique purpose. But fulfilling that purpose requires clarity, and clarity cannot survive in constant noise. The more you protect your mind from distractions, the more clearly you will see your path. The more you set boundaries around negativity, the more strength you will have to pursue your goals. The more you create moments of silence, the more you will hear the voice of vision guiding you forward. Noise will always be there, but your destiny depends on whether you allow it to control you or whether you take control and create space for your true voice to rise.